Hey guys, Ryan here. So since the drop of Season 3, I've been on a mission trying to find the best SMGs in Warzone. I think I finally have a good list for casual players and for sweaty players alike, and that's what I'm going to share with you in this video. If you guys enjoy this video, you guys don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe. It does help out the video and the channel, but I just want to say thank you for watching it, and let's get into it. To begin, I'm going to talk about SMGs that are quote unquote good enough for tournaments. So at number 1, we're going to have the Welgun. At number 2, the Mp40. Number 3, the H4 Blixen. Number 4, the Armaguerra. And last but not least, the Owen gun. So one thing that I want to make clear about this whole good enough for tournaments thing is that I have been doing tournaments recently. I was just in a $2,000 tournament last night, and I found that the most used SMGs were any variation of all of the ones you just saw. I'm going to begin by talking about the Welgun versus the Mp40. They both function extremely similarly. They both are extremely mobile SMGs, but I actually tend to favor the Mp40 because it's a faster time to kill and it just feels overall easier to use for me. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy using both the Welgun and the Mp40, but I personally really enjoyed the Mp40 and I think people should definitely give it a go. The H4 Blixen, that new SMG, it currently has a bug which makes it not as good and not really that viable, but once that bug gets fixed, that gun is going to dominate the SMG meta. It has an insanely fast time to kill, it has super easy to control recoil, and it's just one of the most balanced SMGs I've used in a while. When you're talking about the Armaguerra and Owen gun, they're both 100% viable, and you're going to see some people use them in tournaments, although they're clearly not the most popular picks right now. They both are really good, but you really have to know how to use them and you have to be very comfortable with them. For example, with the Owen gun, is as long as you're hitting chest shots and headshots, you're going to melt people. But if you start hitting lower limb shots or if you start missing 1 or 2 shots in your gunfight, you're going to be punished severely. Same thing with the Armaguerra. I know it's not actually called the Armaguerra, that's just what I like to call it. But the thing is with the Armaguerra is it's super mobile, the damage is really good, it's just an overall very balanced SMG, but it doesn't stand out in any real way. The time to kill does not beat other SMGs, the mobility does not beat other SMGs, and the recoil is not as easy to control as other SMGs. But what it does have is it's just kind of a mixture of all three. It is super balanced, and if you personally enjoy it, I would really recommend running it because it's going to be a super good gun to use overall. I think the main thing I want to make clear when talking about these top 5 SMGs is these are the best SMGs in the game right now. They might not be the best for solos and duos because something like the Type 100 is actually the king of solos duos right now. But what I do want to say is these are the kings of trios, quads, people playing in tournaments, and these are probably going to be the best SMGs overall. If even as a casual player you're looking for quote unquote the best SMGs, then these are the ones I would start with. All the attachments for these guns are going to be down below in the description, so make sure you're checking that out. Now let's talk about the best SMGs for the average quote-unquote casual player. At number 1, we have the Bullfrog. Number 2, the CX9. Number 3, the Cold War and Modern Warfare MP5. Number 4, the MAC-10. And number 5 is going to be the Milano and Cold War PPSH. Now, one thing I really want to make clear about all of these guns is that they might not be as good in terms of raw time to kill as the other 5 that I mentioned at first, but they're all super easy to use. Their time to kills are all competitive enough, and if you're just playing to have fun and enjoy the game, then don't worry about using any of these guns. All these guns are going to be more than good enough. You don't have to worry about using the absolute sweatiest meta class if you're using guns like this. You're going to be able to compete just fine. You may run into a couple of gunfights where you're going to lose because your SMG doesn't kill as fast as something like the Mp40, but that is going to be so rare, and the whole point of these guns is they're super easy to use. I know a lot of people have familiarity with them, and they're still viable. As long as you're playing smart, as long as you're playing your game, you're going to be able to fry with these guns, and I can't stress it enough. The Bullfrog and CX9 are the 2 ones I would heavily recommend the most. The Bullfrog through and through is a melt machine, especially if you're able to hit a couple headshots. But it also has a massive clip, which is amazing for trios and quads. It has super easy to use recoil, and the mobility is top tier. Everything about it makes it a super balanced SMG that's perfect for almost any player. Of course, sometimes the time to kill can get a little iffy if you're shooting their shins and their forearms, but that goes for almost any gun and is something to really not worry about. The other main benefit of the CX9 is its outrageous hipfire capabilities. If you use the build that I'm going to put in the description, it is a melt machine. The hipfire is absolutely insane, and it's just a super good gun overall. It's one of the most slept on SMGs in all of Warzone, and I still do not understand why that gun is not more popular. Now, moving down the list from there, we're going to talk about the two MP5s from Cold War and Modern Warfare. The Modern Warfare MP5 kills faster than the Cold War MP5, but the Cold War MP5 has a little bit more range, and I find it's actually a little easier to control sometimes. The other benefit to the Cold War MP5 is it seems like it has, I don't want to say it has more mobility, but it feels like in some ways it has more mobility. All I know is that both the MP5s are actual slot machines still, and I'd heavily recommend for anyone to use those. I know I keep saying the whole heavily recommend thing, but that's the whole point of these videos. I'm trying to get you guys the guns that aren't just the quote-unquote, this is the best SMG. I'm trying to give you guys a balanced list of guns because as I found is everyone likes different guns. Everyone vibes differently with entirely different guns, and that's why I like to do these big lists. The other and the last three guns I'm going to talk about, the MAC-10, the Milano, and the Vanguard, Cold War PPSH, I feel like are generally and genuinely extremely slept on. I don't see almost anyone using these guns. I see the Milano more than any of the other two I've mentioned. But if you look at the stats, if you look at their mobility, their ease of use recoil-wise, their massive magazines, everything, if you just look at it all, they're really, really good. They might not kill as fast as the Mp40 and the Welgun between 0 and 10 meters, but their recoil, their mobility, everything else is going to give you a massive advantage in your gunfights, and especially if you're a quote-unquote average player. If you're someone who doesn't play that often, if you don't have a 2.5 plus KD, and you're just kind of quote-unquote the average player, then these are SMGs I would heavily recommend for their ease of use, their insane damage range, their insane mobility, and everything else that they offer. A lot of SMGs like the Type 100 that I'm going to talk about here in a second, they just require too much recoil control, too much skill, and they're overall not that good for the average player. So as I just talked about before with the Type 100, I am going to list two guns that I think are absolutely amazing for solos. And those guns are going to be the Type 100 and the Sten. Now, these aren't only good in solos duos. These are actually extremely good in trios and quads, and I've been using the Type 100 with 36 rounds in trios and quads and absolutely slaying with it. So don't just listen to me and say you can only use this in solos duos. It's just that if you are mainly a solos duos player, really consider giving the Sten and Type 100 a try and learning their recoil and overall feel, because those guns are nasty when you look at their time to kill, and the only thing that's really holding them back is going to be their really small magazines. I really enjoy both these guns, and the Type 100 has been a melt machine for me, even in trios and quads. So I imagine you can easily use it in trios quads, no issue. But if you're mainly a solos duos player, whoo, I promise the Type 100 is going to absolutely eviscerate. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got a good understanding of the current SMG meta, and I hope to see you around the channel in the future. I am going to be streaming on this channel a lot more. I'm going to be streaming my tournaments and all of that, so I hope you guys stop by. I hope you guys tune in, and I hope to see you there. Anyways, it's been Ryan. I hope you have a good day. Peace.